This is Nigeria, the seventh most populated country in the world. And every day within this dizzying frenzy, thousands stop what they're doing for mincha, the traditional Jewish afternoon prayer.
So if you go to the government of Israel's website on their view on the lost tribes of Israel and who's from the house of Israel around the world, you'll notice one of the most common names in that report is the Igbo tribe, the Igbo tribe. And these are about 40 or so million people in Nigeria that self-identify as being Jewish. And now there's 60 Orthodox communities in there who have converted and are practicing Judaism.
Introduction: Unveiling a Forgotten Saga. The Igbo people are an African ethnic group with a rich history of struggles and resilience. They have Jewish ancestry and an overshadowed narrative in the transatlantic slave trade. The poignant struggle during the Biafran War almost tore the nation apart.
That's because Nigeria is just a name that the British threw onto the amalgamation of a bunch of different tribes there that destabilized the region and led to a genocide and a Holocaust of the Igbo people. Where in the 1960s, millions of them were systematically killed and murdered.
Yeah, he told me about that too, but I was running late, so.
And so it's so this is so relevant because we have such a never again Holocaust theme, but these people had it. But what is mind-boggling to me, which I can't imagine why this is not in the news and not spoken about, is that a large chunk, more than a fourth of the transatlantic slave trade came specifically from this one tribe. So how are we not starting to connect dots and being wait a minute, so the tribe in Africa that the government of Israel is fascinated with and enamored by is now the blood of those people flowing through the African American community here, which would make sense to me why they're all being we have an Israelite affinity, where we're identifying this is us, we are this. And so I'm so yeah, if the DNA of the blood of these people are in them, they have a valid claim to feel and say that.
Chapter 1: The Roots of Identity, Tracing the Jewish Connection. The assertion of Jewish ancestry among the Igbo people of southeastern Nigeria is supported by a multifaceted array of evidence encompassing genetic, linguistic, cultural, and historical dimensions. This body of evidence paints a compelling picture of the Igbos' connection to ancient Israelite heritage, transcending cultural similarity and suggesting deeper historical ties. Genetic evidence. Genetic studies have been pivotal in reinforcing the Igbos' claim to Jewish ancestry. One significant finding is the presence of the Cohen modal haplotype, a genetic marker associated with the Jewish priesthood in a considerable proportion of Igbo men. This genetic link is particularly intriguing as it suggests a historical connection dating back to the Jewish diasporas, when Jewish communities dispersed across various regions, including Europe, North Africa, and parts of Asia. These genetic traces are crucial to the puzzle, hinting at a lineage that connects the Igbo people to ancient Jewish populations. Linguistic parallels. Scholars have noted similarities in syntax and phonetics between the Igbo language and ancient Hebrew, suggesting a historical intertwining of the two languages. This linguistic connection might indicate past interactions between the ancestors of the Igbo and ancient Israelites, potentially through trade or migrations. These linguistic ties offer a window into the historical exchanges that could have facilitated a blending of cultures and languages, further substantiating the claims of shared ancestry. Cultural and religious practices. The Igbos' cultural and religious practices provide perhaps the most visible evidence of their Jewish ancestry. They observe circumcision, adhere to specific dietary laws, and engage in ritualistic practices that bear a striking resemblance to those found in Judaism. These practices, which set the Igbo apart from other Nigerian ethnic groups, suggest an ancient Jewish influence. Furthermore, the Igbos' oral traditions and clan names often mirror those in ancient Israel, providing a cultural and historical link that bolsters the case for a shared heritage. Historical documentation. Historical records and accounts support the Igbos' Jewish connection. Narratives from colonial administrators and missionaries who observed Jewish-like practices among the Igbo in the 18th and 19th centuries offer external validation of this heritage. Despite the pressures of external influences and the passage of time, the persistence of these practices indicates a deeply ingrained connection to Jewish traditions maintained over generations. In delving into the Igbo claim of Jewish ancestry, it becomes clear that this is not a mere cultural curiosity, but a deeply rooted aspect of their identity. The convergence of genetic, linguistic, cultural, and historical evidence creates a compelling narrative of the Igbo's connection to ancient Israel. painting a rich and complex picture of their heritage and identity. Chapter 2. The Echoes of the Past. The Igbo in the transatlantic slave trade and the legacy of Judah. The history of the Igbo people in the transatlantic slave trade is closely linked with the concept of Negroland and the Kingdom of Judah. This period represents a significant chapter in their history, marked by immense suffering, displacement, and resilience. It's a narrative that extends beyond the shores of Africa to the Americas, shaping the Igbo identity and their diaspora in profound ways. Historical maps and accounts from the era of the transatlantic slave trade often refer to a region in West Africa known as Negroland. This area, which included parts of modern-day Nigeria, including the Igbo homeland, was known for its rich culture and complex societies. Within Negroland was the Kingdom of Judah, a coastal kingdom in modern-day Benin that became one of the central points of the slave trade in the 17th and 18th centuries. The name Judah suggests a connection with the ancient Israelites, which resonates deeply with the Igbos' claim to Jewish ancestry. The Kingdom of Judah was a significant hub for the transatlantic slave trade, and many slaves exported from this region were Igbo. The Igbos, known for their resilience and strong communal ties, found themselves caught in the brutal trade, enduring the horrors of enslavement and the Middle Passage. The connection of the Igbo people to the Kingdom of Judah adds a layer of historical significance to their narrative, intertwining their story with the broader saga of the African diaspora. The first slave ship to arrive in the English colonies in America in 1619 was named the White Lion, a name that carries symbolic weight. This event marked the beginning of a centuries-long saga of suffering and displacement for African slaves, including the Igbo people. In 1803, on St. Simon's Island, Georgia, enslaved Igbo people chose death over enslavement in an act of resistance that stands as a powerful testament to their unbreakable spirit. This choice of freedom over life in bondage echoes Igbo culture's deep-rooted values of autonomy and dignity. The Igbo landing has since become a symbol of defiance and the will to resist oppression, deeply embedded in African-American folklore. The legacy of the Igbo in the slave trade is evident in their significant influence on the cultures they were forced into. Their resilience and ability to retain aspects of their culture under oppressive conditions are notable. This cultural retention is visible in African American culture, including religious practices, storytelling, and other cultural expressions. Despite the trauma of slavery, the Igbo managed to retain and adapt elements of their culture, creating a unique syncretism of Igbo and Western traditions. This cultural blend, evolving over generations in the diaspora, reflects the resilience and adaptability of the Igbo spirit. The story of the Igbo people in the transatlantic slave trade, particularly their connection to the Kingdom of Judah and the legacy of the White Lion, is a complex narrative of loss, resilience, and survival. This chapter in their history has profoundly shaped the Igbo identity, informing their worldview and their place in the global African diaspora. The legacy of this era continues to influence the Igbo people, reminding them of their past, their struggles, and their enduring spirit of resistance and survival. Chapter 3. Rising Tensions, Prelude to Biafra. The story of the Igbo people leading up to the Biafran War is a complex tapestry woven with ethnic tensions, political power struggles, and a quest for autonomy within the post-colonial landscape of Nigeria. This chapter in Igbo history is marked by a convergence of historical circumstances that set the stage for one of Africa's most devastating civil conflicts. Post-independence Nigeria, ethnic and political dynamics. Following Nigeria's independence from Britain in 1960, the country grappled with the challenges of unifying diverse ethnic groups under a single national identity. Nigeria's population was, and still is, predominantly divided among three major ethnic groups: the Hausa Fulani in the north, the Yoruba in the west, and the Igbo in the southeast. Each group had distinct cultural, religious, and social systems, contributing to underlying tensions. The Igbo people, known for their entrepreneurial spirit and educational achievements, were prominent in Nigeria's socio-economic landscape. Their success, however, became a source of envy and resentment, particularly among the Hausa Fulani, who dominated the political scene. The Igbo's predominance in commerce and education, juxtaposed with the political power of the north, created a volatile environment of ethnic rivalry. Economic disparities and regional development. Economic disparities between the regions further fueled tensions. The southeastern region, predominantly inhabited by the Igbo, was more economically developed compared to the north. The discovery of oil in the Niger Delta in the late 1950s brought wealth and attention to the region, exacerbating regional inequalities and rivalries. The Igbo's economic dominance in certain sectors, coupled with their minority status in the federal political framework, created a sense of marginalization and vulnerability. This economic and political imbalance laid the groundwork for deep-seated grievances that would later escalate into conflict. The 1966 coup, a catalyst for conflict. The year 1966 was pivotal in the escalation of ethnic tensions. In January, a group of army officers, mostly of Igbo descent, staged a coup d'etat, overthrowing the government and assassinating several political leaders, including the northern premier, Ahmadu Bello. The coup, though initially successful, exacerbated ethnic tensions, leading to a perception among the northern population that it was an Igbo conspiracy to dominate the country. In July 1966, a counter-coup led by northern officers resulted in the murder of the then head of state, General Aguiyi Ironsi, an Igbo, and the massacre of thousands of Igbo civilians living in the north. This event marked a significant turning point as it intensified the fear and insecurity among the Igbo population, leading to a mass exodus of Igbos back to their southeastern homeland. The ascent of Litakol Yakubu Gowon. The counter-coup brought Litakol Yakubu Gowon, a northerner, to power. Gowon's regime, perceived by many Igbos as biased against them, failed to address the growing concerns of the Igbo community, particularly regarding security and equal representation. The government's inability to prevent or punish the atrocities committed against the Igbos during the counter-coup further deepened the divide. The Eastern region and rising secessionist sentiments. Secessionist sentiments began taking root in the Eastern region, governed by Olusegun Odumegwu Ojukwu. The region's leadership and people felt increasingly alienated from the federal government. The widespread violence against the Igbo in the north and the lack of adequate response from the federal government led to a strong feeling among the Igbos that their security and interests could no longer be guaranteed within the Nigerian state. The economic context and oil politics. The economic context of this period cannot be overlooked. The burgeoning oil industry in the Niger Delta was becoming increasingly vital to Nigeria's economy. Control over these oil-rich regions added an economic dimension to the political and ethnic rivalry as each region vied for greater control over the resources. Cultural and ideological differences. The cultural and ideological differences among Nigeria's ethnic groups played a significant role in the rising tensions. The Igbo, with their republican and democratic societal structure, contrasted sharply with the hierarchical and feudal system prevalent in the north. These differences extended to religious practices and social norms, widening the group gap. Towards secession, the path to Biafra. By 1967, the situation had reached a boiling point. The eastern region, feeling marginalized and threatened, began to seriously consider secession as the only viable option for ensuring the safety and prosperity of its people. The idea of an independent state, which would later be named Biafra, began to gain traction. The aspiration for Biafra was not merely a reaction to the immediate political and security crises, but was also rooted in a deeper desire for self-determination and the preservation of the Igbo culture and identity. The prelude to the Biafran War was thus a culmination of historical, ethnic, economic, and political factors. It was a conflict from a complex interplay of regional rivalries, power struggles, and a profound sense of injustice and fear among the Igbo people. This period set the stage for one of Nigerian and African history's most significant and tragic chapters. Chapter 4: The Flames of Biafra. The Struggle for Independence. The declaration of the Republic of Biafra in 1967 marked the culmination of mounting tensions and aspirations for Igbo self-determination, igniting a devastating civil war in Nigeria. This chapter of Igbo history is characterized by its complexity, the depth of the humanitarian crisis it spawned, and its enduring impact on the Igbo people and Nigeria. The decision to declare independence by Lieutenant Colonel Odumegwu Ojukwu, the military governor of the eastern region, was a response to the culmination of years of ethnic tensions, economic disparities, and political grievances. The declaration was made with the hope of creating a haven for the Igbo people who had faced increasing violence and discrimination in other parts of Nigeria. However, this move was met with immediate and vehement opposition from the Nigerian government, led by Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon. The Nigerian government perceived the secession of Biafra as an unacceptable fragmentation of the nation and quickly moved to quash the breakaway state. In July 1967, Nigerian troops advanced into Biafran territory, marking the beginning of a full-scale war. The conflict rapidly escalated, with both sides engaging in intense military confrontations. Despite its lack of resources compared to the Nigerian government, Biafra managed to mount a significant resistance. Under the leadership of Ojukwu, the Biafran military employed various tactics to defend its territory. However, they faced overwhelming odds, including a shortage of weapons, limited international recognition, and a smaller military force. One of the most harrowing aspects of the Biafran War was the humanitarian crisis it unleashed. The Nigerian government's blockade of Biafra led to widespread famine and suffering among the civilian population. Images of starving Biafran children brought international attention to the conflict, leading to a significant but controversial international aid response. However, geopolitical interests and Cold War dynamics shaped the international community's engagement with the conflict. Several foreign powers became involved in the conflict, each with interests and agendas. While some countries provided humanitarian aid, others supplied military support to either side of the conflict. This external involvement added another layer of complexity to the war. Inside Biafra, the war took a severe toll on the civilian population. The blockade and continuous military assaults led to widespread destruction, loss of life, and a breakdown of social and economic structures. The war also had a profound psychological impact on the Biafran people, reinforcing their sense of identity and the injustice they faced. The war had a lasting impact on Igbo culture and society. It reinforced a sense of Igbo identity and solidarity, born out of shared suffering and resistance. The experience of the war and the accompanying hardships shaped the worldview of generations of Igbos, fostering a deep sense of resilience and community. After nearly 3 years of conflict, the war ended in January 1970 with the surrender of Biafran forces. The dream of an independent Biafra was crushed, but the war left an indelible mark on Nigerian history and the collective memory of the Igbo people. The war did not signify the end of the Igbo struggle for justice and recognition within Nigeria. The Biafran War was more than a territorial or political conflict. It was a struggle deeply rooted in the Igbo quest for self-determination and respect for their rights as a distinct ethnic group within Nigeria. The legacy of this conflict continues to influence the political, social, and cultural landscape of Nigeria and the Igbo people to this day. Chapter 5: The Aftermath: Scars and Resilience. With the fall of Biafra, the Igbo people found themselves standing at the precipice of a daunting task, rebuilding their lives and reintegrating into a Nigeria that the civil war had irrevocably changed. The scars of conflict ran deep physically and emotionally, but the Igbo spirit, characterized by its resilience, shone brightly even in the face of adversity. This chapter delves into the enduring impacts of the war on the Igbo people and their unwavering fight for equity and representation in post-war Nigeria. The economic aftermath of the Biafran War was particularly harsh on the Igbo community. Nigeria's post-war economic policies seemed to further marginalize them as they grappled with losing homes, businesses, and livelihoods. Many Igbo families were left impoverished, struggling to make ends meet in a nation that was still reeling from the effects of the conflict. Land and property disputes became common as returning refugees sought to reclaim what had been lost during the war. The economic disparities between different regions of Nigeria only exacerbated these challenges. Despite these hardships, the Igbo people displayed extraordinary resilience. They embarked on the challenging journey of rebuilding their lives, often from scratch. Igbo entrepreneurs, known for their industriousness, were instrumental in kickstarting economic activities in post-war Nigeria. They invested their energy and resources into various sectors, contributing significantly to the nation's economic recovery. This resilience helped the Igbo community regain some semblance of stability and played a crucial role in Nigeria's overall reconstruction. The wounds of war, however, were not just physical and economic. The psychological trauma experienced by the Igbo people during the conflict left lasting scars. Families were torn apart, and the loss of loved ones was immeasurable. Children who had witnessed the horrors of war grew up with haunting memories that shaped their perspectives on life. Healing these emotional wounds was a long and arduous, requiring individual and collective efforts. In the post-war era, a strong sense of unity and solidarity emerged among the Igbo people. They recognized that their survival and progress depended on their ability to work together and advocate for their rights within the Nigerian Federation. This collective spirit fueled their ongoing fight for equity and representation in the country's political and social landscape. The struggle for equity and representation took various forms, including political activism and engagement. Igbo leaders and intellectuals played pivotal roles in advocating for policies that would address the historical injustices faced by their people. They championed causes related to resource allocation, political participation, and social integration. Although progress was slow and often met with resistance, the Igbo community's determination remained unwavering. One of the most significant milestones in the post-war Igbo journey was the push for a more inclusive and equitable Nigeria. The struggle for a federal structure that allowed for greater regional autonomy and resource control gained momentum. This effort aimed to ensure that all regions, including the Igbo heartland, would have a fair share of the nation's resources and political power. Chapter 6. Echoes in the Present. The Legacy of Biafra and Contemporary Igbo Sentiment. More than 50 years have passed since the Biafran War, yet its impact on the Igbo people and the wider Nigerian society is still felt today. The war symbolizes the Igbo community's struggles and aspirations, shaping their identity and perspective within Nigeria's complex national framework. Persistent marginalization in post-war Nigeria. Despite the government's efforts to reintegrate the Igbo into Nigeria under the post-war policy of no victor, no vanquished, many Igbos still feel marginalized. This is due to historical grievances, particularly the economic devastation caused by policies like the 20-pound scheme. The Igbo community perceives ongoing disparities in federal appointments, resource allocation, and infrastructural development in the southeast as evidence of alienation and injustice. The current political climate in Nigeria. Nigeria faces various challenges today, including corruption, security issues, and ethnic tensions. The rise of insurgencies such as Boko Haram and various secessionist movements has exacerbated ethnic and regional divides. The Igbos' quest for fair representation and equity has gained increased urgency and relevance within this turbulent context. Resurgence of separatist movements and Igbo aspirations. The feeling of exclusion has led to a resurgence in separatist sentiments among some segments of the Igbo population. Groups like the Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, reflect these sentiments, advocating for the secession of southeastern states and the formation of an independent Biafran state. The Nigerian government's often forceful response to these movements, including military action and legal prohibitions, has added complexity to the situation. Cultural renaissance and Igbo identity. There has been a cultural renaissance within the Igbo community in response to these political and social challenges. This revival focuses on preserving and promoting the Igbo language, traditions, and history. It goes beyond mere cultural preservation. It affirms Igbo identity in a nation where they often feel marginalized. Igbo economic contributions and resilience. The Igbo community continues to be a vital economic force in Nigeria. Their entrepreneurial prowess and contributions to commerce and industry are significant in the national economy. This economic dynamism is a source of pride and symbolizes the Igbos' resilience and adaptability. National dialogue and reconciliation. The ongoing legacy of Biafra underscores the necessity for a comprehensive national dialogue in Nigeria. Addressing power decentralization, equitable resource distribution, and historical injustices is crucial for national unity. The Igbo perspective, shaped by their unique experiences and aspirations, is essential in these discussions. Influence of the Igbo diaspora. The extensive Igbo diaspora, a result of the war and subsequent migrations, continues to influence Nigeria's position on the global stage. The diaspora actively advocates for Igbo issues internationally and contributes to Nigeria and its host countries through remittances, cultural exchange, and advocacy. Focus on education and historical preservation. There is an increased emphasis on education and historical preservation within the Igbo community. Understanding the Biafran War and its aftermath is vital for future generations' empowerment. This focus aims to create a more inclusive and equitable Nigerian society and ensure that past mistakes are not repeated. Today, the legacy of Biafra remains a complex and potent influence in Nigeria. The Igbo community's ongoing quest for justice, recognition, and self-determination continues to be a significant factor in the nation's evolving socio-political narrative. As Nigeria faces its various contemporary challenges, the experiences and aspirations of the Igbo will undoubtedly play a pivotal role in shaping its future direction and policies. Conclusion. Reflecting on the journey of the Igbo people and their struggles throughout history, we can see parallels with narratives of struggle, resilience, and hope found in the Bible. There are echoes of the curses described in Deuteronomy, where people face trials and tribulations due to disobedience, which resonate strongly with the plight and endurance of the Igbo throughout their history. This connection invites contemplation on the power of faith and the role of divine providence in overcoming generational oppression. Central to this reflection is the belief that true liberation from such cycles of hardship comes through a personal relationship with God, as offered through Christ. This path to redemption and hope is eloquently expressed in Scripture, such as in Isaiah 40:31, KJV. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. This verse is a beacon of hope, promising strength and renewal for those who trust God. In the face of adversity experienced by the Igbo and countless others throughout history, these words offer profound solace and hope. They remind us that through faith and a personal relationship with God, there is the promise of overcoming, rising above trials, and finding peace that transcends the trials of this world. This message of hope and redemption remains as relevant today as ever, guiding us toward a future where faith and perseverance lead to a brighter, more hopeful tomorrow.